As the main birthplace of Southern martial arts, Foshan can be said to be a martial culture. Various schools and sects flocked to open martial arts schools, making Foshan a world-famous hometown of martial arts. If people are to say who is the best fighter in Foshan, a figure will surely come to mind, a generation master, Yip Man. At that time, Yip Man's family was prosperous. He and his wife had a son, living without worries about food and clothing. And his Wing Chun boxing was known throughout Foshan. One day, Master Liao suddenly visited. Having just established a martial arts school, he also wanted to experience the power of Wing Chun. Yip Man refused but failed, so he had the butler close the door. This was Yip Man's usual tradition, closed door sparring, secrets kept regardless of victory or defeat. The two came to the center of the living room. After greeting each other, they assumed stance. Master Liao took the lead. Liao family's boxing was fierce, but he failed to harm Yip Man at all. Master Liao kept getting beaten. Yip Man pushed him away with a palm. Master Liao was still unconvinced. He clenched his fists and charged forward, but was beaten helplessly by Yip Man. Yip Man pressed him to the ground. His fists swung over his head repeatedly. The outcome was clear. Master Liao was thoroughly convinced by Yip Man, but since he lost the fight, he couldn't afford to lose face. Before leaving, Master Liao specifically warned not to tell anyone. Unexpectedly, their fight was clearly seen by Sha Dan Yuan in the tree. He came to the tea house to boast loudly. Master Liao naturally refused to admit it. He became furious and went to the tea house, but Sha Dan Yuan stubbornly refused to change his story. He even brought Master Liao in front of Yip Man, wanting Yip Man to state the facts face to face. Seeing the situation becoming more difficult to handle, Martial Red Lion hurriedly pushed his brother away. This is the human relationship in martial arts. Publicly exposing it is equivalent to losing face. But Sha Dan Yuan, young and impulsive, turned around angrily and left. At this moment, Li Jiaogao walked over proudly. As Foshan's police officer, Li Jiaogao always looked down on martial artists. Yip Man grabbed Li Jiao's hand. He suddenly exerted force with his fingers. The gun instantly disassembled. Bullets fell to the ground. Yip Man smiled faintly, then bent down to pick up the bullets. Yip Man's reputation was well known. Li Jiaogao dared not offend him excessively. He could only curse silently and turn away. Early the next morning, several rugged-looking men arrived in Foshan. This rugged man was called Golden Mountain Claw. He came to Foshan to open a martial arts school. But as an outsider, only a strong fist could earn trust. After some inquiries, Golden Mountain Claw swaggered into Qinglong Martial Arts School. The disciples immediately made way. They assumed stance with him. Northern boxing styles are bold and vigorous, powerful yet agile in their strikes. The master was beaten helplessly. Golden Mountain Claw leapt into the air. His fist heavily struck down. The master instantly fell to the ground. His disciples behind him were at a loss. The owner of the only martial arts school was also startled by the situation. He turned around and picked up a Qinglong Yanwei Dao, Green Dragon Crescent Blade. But Jinshan Claw was not afraid at all. He suddenly drew a cleaver, and a fierce battle was about to begin. The owner displayed a powerful sword technique, every strike aimed at Jinshan Claw's vital points, but he was kicked several meters away by Jinshan Claw. Seizing the opportunity, Jinshan Claw advanced. His blade heavily struck the owner's head, kicked him down with a single foot, and pressed him down tightly. Jinshan Claw was fierce, kicking dozens of martial arts schools, yet he had not lost once. Master Liao, a grandmaster of boxing, although he persisted for a long time, he was eventually defeated. Jinshan Claw was extremely arrogant. When he came to eat noodles by the street, he still kept talking non-stop, boasting himself as the #1 in Foshan. The shop assistant listened, but was disdainful, mocking the few he had beaten as street performers with fake moves. Hearing this, Jinshan Claw also became interested. At dusk, Jinshan Claw arrived with his men, kicked open the door of Yuan's house. The common people also gathered. They wanted to witness the fight firsthand. Yuan's wife saw the opponent's aggressive approach, but only saw it as a sparring match and went over to reason with him. But Jinshan Claw still kept talking non-stop, constantly mocking Yuan. Although his wife did not want Yuan to fight, she also did not want to see her husband humiliated, so she had to turn back to the room and silently approved of the duel. After Li Jiao drove the onlookers out, the two stood facing each other in the hall, ready for battle. Jinshan Claw stepped forward swiftly, his fists fierce, decisive in killing and attacking. He kicked in the air, but Yuan easily dodged. Faced with Jinshan Claw's fierce punch wind, Yuan only defended without attacking. Jinshan Claw did a fish-like roll. His legs suddenly kicked out, but kicked over a nearby vase. Jinshan Claw advanced again, jumped high, kicked repeatedly with his legs, then flipped and slammed down heavily, but Yuan dodged swiftly. The teacups on the table shattered with a bang. When they once again assumed fighting stances, having tested each other earlier, Yuan had figured out Jinshan Claw's martial techniques. In their next clash, Yuan began to switch from defense to offense, kicked him to the ground, kneeing him sharply. Jinshan Claw flew back several meters. No matter how he punched, he could not hurt Yuan at all, and was kicked away by Yuan. When the crowd helped him up, Jinshan Claw only felt dizzy. Seeing that fists and kicks were no match, Jinshan Claw hooked his foot, and his cleaver flew straight out. He threw a punch at Yuan, then turned around to catch the cleaver, chopped down heavily, but Yuan sidestepped. Seeing the opponent's unfair tactics, Yuan casually grabbed a feather duster nearby, dodging and then flicking it out. Jinshan Claw's mouth was suddenly full of feathers. He advanced again, but Jinshan Claw's great cleaver was all blocked. Yuan leapt into the air. He swung the feather duster and struck Jinshan Claw's face, leaving a red bloodstain immediately. After helplessly shaking his head, Yuan once again whipped out his whip. Jinshan Claw was beaten back repeatedly. Yuan took the opportunity to step forward and press a stick against Jinshan Claw's armpit, and the outcome was clear. Seeing that Jinshan Claw refused to give up, Yuan struck his hand with another whip, causing his machete to fall, which Yuan then kicked away. Another whip struck Jinshan Claw's buttocks, then he stepped forward and pressed against his neck. As the mean gate slowly opened, Jinshan Claw and his men walked out with their heads bowed and faces covered in dust. The onlookers cheered joyfully, once again confirming Yuan as the #1 in Foshan. The front of the door was crowded every day, all eager for Yuan to open a martial arts school. But Yuan was completely uninterested in this. Until 1937, when the war broke out, the Japanese army invaded massively, and the people suffered greatly. In just 1 year, Foshan was declared lost. The population of over 300,000 was reduced to just over 70,000. The Yi family mansion was forcibly occupied, and Yuan was left destitute. He and his family wandered the streets, barely able to eat. One day, while Yuan was out exchanging rice, he happened to meet his old friend Zhou Qingtuan. During their conversation, he learned that Zhou Qingtuan had opened a small factory in Foshan, thanks to Yuan's earlier support. Now that Yuan's family was impoverished, Zhou Qingtuan wanted to give Yuan a share of the factory's first floor as a token of gratitude. Unexpectedly, Yuan politely refused and decisively turned to leave. Yuan seemed gentle and scholarly, but deep down he was extremely proud. But now, in difficult times, although Yuan was reluctant to accept his friend's help, he still had to support his family. Helplessly, Yuan had no choice but to lower himself and become a coal miner. In 1937, the anti-Japanese war broke out. The Japanese army invaded massively, and the people suffered greatly. To support his family, Yuan had to humble himself and become a coal miner. Every day, he worked covered in dirt and ash. Fortunately, with Wu Jilin's company, life was not so dull. One day, while they were eating sweet potatoes and reminiscing, a group of Japanese soldiers suddenly arrived. Among them was the former patrol officer Li Zhao, who had now defected to the Japanese army and become a translator for the general. The general had come to find martial arts experts to spar with the Japanese army. Anyone who won would be rewarded with a bag of white rice. In the current environment, a bag of rice was extremely precious, and many signed up. Wu Jilin also decisively followed. When they arrived at the Japanese camp, they found Master Liao also there, holding a bag of rice, which represented he had just fought a fierce battle. Seeing new faces again, the general was eager for a fight and boasted he could take on 3 opponents at once. Both winners and losers would receive rice. The 3 of them went onto the stage, but the general was quite skilled and immediately gave them a strong warning. Since both winning and losing could earn rice, the 2 of them decided not to stand up anymore. Wu Qilin originally came for sparring. How could he wish to give up just like that? After quickly standing up, he suddenly charged forward, made several moves, but was dodged one by one. The general only kicked him away several meters with a single foot. The general shook his head disdainfully, turning to leave. Wu Qilin stepped forward again. Unexpectedly, the general was already prepared. He dodged sideways, then struck with an elbow and a punch. Wu Qilin was beaten back repeatedly. His eyes filled with anger, he crazily charged at the general, spitting a mouthful of blood onto his face. The general was furious. He exerted all his strength and kicked out. Wu Qilin fell to the ground. Li Zhao, overwhelmed with grief but with a hint of helplessness. The next day, when Yuan went to work, he did not see Wu Qilin's figure. Seeing Li Zhao's eyes flicker and evade, Yuan felt a faint unease in his heart. After arriving at the Japanese military camp, he saw a shocking scene. Master Liao was on the ring. Although the fight had already ended, he was still shot and killed by a Japanese soldier. Seeing Li Zhao dare not respond, Yuan already had the answer in his heart. After the gate slowly opened, Yuan went straight to the stage. Looking at the Japanese warriors, his face showed no fear at all. Yuan announced he would challenge 10 of them. Seeing Yuan so arrogant, the general also became interested. 10 samurai surrounded Yuan in the center. Yuan changed from his usual gentle appearance. His eyes filled with anger. He fought without reservation. His fists ferocious, his kicks sharp and fierce. After knocking down one warrior, he struck down rain-like punches. No one could withstand 3 moves from Yuan. Wherever he went, more warriors fell. After trapping the last one with his legs, his fists, filled with rage, kept pounding down. The warrior's blood flowed endlessly. He fell to the ground powerless. Seeing all 10 warriors defeated, the general, with great interest, stepped onto the stage. He kicked a handful of rice at Yuan's feet. After leaving the Japanese military camp, Yuan wandered the streets in despair. Watching trucks loaded with soldiers pass by, his heart was filled with myriad feelings. Back home, he sat alone on a chair. His wife silently wiped blood from his hands. Seeing Yiwen's forlorn expression, she didn't know how to comfort him. Born in turbulent times, she didn't ask Yiwen to change the world, only to live a complete family life together. Meanwhile, Zhou Qingtuan's factory welcomed an uninvited guest. He looked closely, and it was none other than Jinshan Zhao, who had previously lost to Yiwen. Now he was engaged in extortion and forced sales. He suddenly beat Zhou Qingtuan violently. When Yiwen arrived, he saw the scene in chaos, and Jinshan Zhao and his men had already left. Once, Yiwen practiced martial arts only to protect his family. But now, witnessing the brutality of the Japanese army, he realized that, first the country, then the family. A strong people make a strong nation. Led by Yiwen, the workers in the field began practicing Wing Chun. Zhou Qingtuan was very pleased to see this. Yiwen's life also tends to become peaceful. Since Yiwen fought alone against 10 Japanese soldiers in the Japanese camp, he has not appeared again. Therefore, the general ordered, no matter what, to find Yiwen and want him to return for a duel. One day, while Yiwen was playing with the children, the Japanese came again, threatening him to continue to participate in the duel. However, seeing Yiwen's wife as stunning as a goddess, the officer harbored evil thoughts. Just as he was about to go upstairs, Yiwen suddenly launched an attack, quickly and cleanly taking down several soldiers. With the help of Li Zhao, Yiwen's family moved into a small house, then planned to seek help from Zhou Qingtuan, thinking of escaping Foshan and going to Hong Kong. Unexpectedly, before Yiwen arrived, Jinshan Zhao and his men attacked again. After Yiwen's guidance, the workers united, posing Wing Chun stances to confront Jinshan Zhao. Although everyone learned a few moves, they were still amateurs. In a critical moment, Yiwen finally arrived, knocking out a bandit with a punch, then moving among the crowd, his fists constantly swinging. Reaching the front of the crowd, seeing Yiwen appear, Jinshan Zhao was furious with shame. His followers behind him, holding axes, surged forward, but Yiwen did not back down, facing the crowd with fewer people, showing no sign of weakness. He swiftly knocked down a group of thugs, then took a bamboo pole from the beam and heavily struck Jinshan Zhao's shoulder, sweeping him off his feet. Jinshan Zhao, in pain, was hit hard in the face and instantly fell into a nearby iron bucket. The remaining followers were also subdued. Seeing this, Jinshan Zhao had no choice but to leave in disgrace with his men. Until late at night, Li Zhao hurried over. It turned out Jinshan Zhao, defeated by Yiwen, had gone to complain to the Japanese army. To force Yiwen to appear, the Japanese captured the workers together. Yiwen, unwilling to see his friends suffer because of him, voluntarily appeared to save the workers, but was knocked to the ground with a stick. However, the general saw his remarkable skills and wanted him to serve the emperor. The next day, the general sat kneeling on the ring, waiting quietly. A large crowd had gathered in front of the ring. Under everyone's watch, Yiwen slowly stepped onto the ring. He was already prepared for death. For the dignity of the nation, for the pride of Foshan, this battle could only be won, not lost. The two took their stances, facing each other, a fierce battle about to begin. The general made the first move, but his foot missed. After exchanging several punches, Yiwen struck him in the face with a palm. The general, seeing this, ceased his contempt, throwing continuous fists, pushing Yiwen to the edge, but Yiwen used his strength to borrow force, grabbing the general's single arm and stabilizing his stance. One punch, one palm, one kick, he advanced again, grabbing the general's right leg and flipping him to the ground. His fists rained down like hail. After he got up, another kick hit him in the groin. At this moment, Zhou Qingtuan arrived with Yiwen's wife and children. He ultimately could not leave Yiwen behind. In the ring, Yiwen had completely taken the initiative. He firmly suppressed the general. The general had lost all ability to resist, being treated by Yiwen as if he were a wooden dummy, his fists pounding down on the general like a storm. Finally, with a single elbow strike, he pressed one hand against the general's neck. The outcome was clear. The general spat blood and helplessly fell to the ground. The onlookers cheered loudly. Martial arts may not change the world, but they can awaken the bloodiness of the Chinese people. When Yiwen was overwhelmed with mixed feelings, a bullet suddenly shot into his chest. In the shocked eyes of everyone, Yiwen fell beneath the ring. The people were thoroughly angered. Disregarding obstacles, they rushed forward. Li Zhao also seized the officer's pistol at this moment, aimed at his head, and pulled the trigger. Yiwen used his fists to inspire unity among the Chinese people. At the end of the story, with the help of Zhou Qingtuan, Yiwen escaped injured, settled in Hong Kong, taught Wing Chun, and opened a new chapter in the life of a Grandmaster.